Right, so this is a video on, well, the makeup of the rear wheel. Pretty much on every chain-driven motorbike, this would be the setup. This is a GSX S 750. I need a new tyre on. I wasn't going to do this video, but then I decided I was, so it's in the stripped down state at the moment. So I just thought I'd show you the components and how it goes back together. And you've only got to do the reverse to take it apart. So obviously this is the wheel. You'll get your cush drives. Some of them are take up the whole indent, like on your trials bikes and stuff like that, and it will come out as sort of one piece with all these lugs on it. This particular one has lugs going either side of the webs, which sit quite neatly in it. And then your sprocket sits in them. So you've got your spacer that doesn't want to come out. Ah, there you go. So that's your bearing, that's your wheel bearing, that one there. This is just like a dust cover on the outer side. Obviously stop the shit getting in, not just dust. So you've got your spacer, and because I've disturbed it, I'm going to put a bit of extra white grease in there, which is a high temperature, high temperature, anti-corrosive, and water resistant grease. So protect my bearing a bit more. Just smear a bit of that around there. A bit extra on there. That'll be the wrong side then. Is it that way? No, that is the right side. So yeah, just smear that round a bit. And shove it back in. So yeah, that's your inner spacer. Like that. So then this will fit, these parts here obviously sit in the voids, and then when you accelerate it takes up the drive, takes some of the shock out of the drive. If it was metal to metal, the impact would just break these bits off eventually, or in the case of a Hayabusa, probably immediately. Let's get that home. Right, so there you go. That's that on. Stick a bit inside for when the axle goes back in. I'll do a smearing on the axle as well, just so there are no rubbing surfaces. The other thing I do is a bit of red grease on my rubber, which just helps that stop burning, rubbing away on your spacer. There's your spacer for that particular side, the sprocket side. You can see it's got a flange on it, so it can only go in one way. And this black line here is where the rubber dust seal has been cooked a little bit. So you just need to clean that off and then stick it in there. So that's that cleaned up, and a bit of red on there as well, just to let it spin nicely. That's that in. And then the other side, you've got your rear disc. And because I haven't used this bike in a little while, it's got a bit of surface rust. Not to worry. And again, a bit of red. Yeah. I'm too busy, woman. Too busy. I want to do bike stuff. Right, so I've got to disappear because my Tesco's online deliveries here. So that's the spacer for the other side. A bit of red grease around the inside of that. Well, the inner edge, not the inside. Like that. Got a bit more white in there. Right, so that's both the spacers on. Can't grip the lid. So, setup you've got here is obviously your axle goes through here. Through your brake, through your adjuster, and all the way through the other side. And then your spacers sit against this edge. The brake disc side sits against this edge with a disc in between your brake pads, and this side it butts up against your swing arm. So that's the theory behind it. On the GSX S has these collars as well, which hook under the swing arm on the outer side, and the edge of this lines up with the measurements for your chain adjustment. I'll show that in a minute. So first thing to do is shove a bit of a grease up on the axle. So anything touching the axle and spinning will not cause friction. A bit like that. Give it a smear along. And say the white grease is good stuff because it's water resistant and very high temperature resistant, so it stays on there quite nicely. So first thing is get the axle set, and then the faff is getting the disc in, because the top part of your caliper actually sits in your wheel. So I don't really know how I wangled this out of here, to be honest. I think it was brute force and ignorance. So you get your caliper back past there. It also sits on a ridge at the back, which will bring it up level. And now that's somewhere close. Should be able to get there. There you go. So the axle's through, is now through the adjuster, which is in the swing arm, and your brake bracket. That nodule you there is the ABS sensor. So what I'm going to do is undo that sensor, and then the disc will have a free line into there, because obviously you can see the ABS disc is recessed compared with the brake disc. So if I take that knob out of the way, that'll give us a free line up. So right, get a spanner and do that. Right, so take the ABS sensor out of the way so the end of that isn't sticking in the way of the disc. Then we should get disc in there. Just push the axle through a little bit. Right, so the marks are this side, and that straight edge is your marker point. So they go on the outside. As I say, you get your spacer in, your brakes in, got to put the sensor back on, and then this side obviously chain on. Make sure your spacer's in between, and finally on this side you'll have your adapter plate, which is also your, as I said, marker for your chain adjustment, and then your outer nylock nut. Is it nylock? It looks like a nylock. Yeah, nylock type nut, which is a 32mm this side, and the axle nut is 27. And there you go, that's the kiddie on. So we'll get that ABS sensor back in, nut it up. I think I'll put a bit of nut lock on there actually, which I can't reach. Tiny bit of nut locker, and that's an 8mm bolt going on there. One thing to watch out for is obviously using the, just pinch that a bit, using the white grease and the red grease near your tyre and your brakes. Just be careful not to get it on it, and if you do, make sure you clean it off it, because your new tyres want about 100 miles to warm them up and cook off the manufacturer's grease, and then so they don't stick to the road all that well, and you add into that with your own grease and everything isn't too clever. So I'll give that a little bit. At the moment, and then get my adjusters adjusted, get my chain adjusted, should I say. It's just on 5. Nah, that's too much. Let's back that off. Right, that's definitely just on the disappearing marker, and that is just the same. Right, so that's my chain tension done, and what I do when I'm doing the bolts up is just whack a spanner in there to keep tension on the chain, so when you're doing this up it doesn't move at all. I used to get grief with that, and this is similar to what you get with the, is it the monkey chain tensioner? It will keep the chain under tension while you do it up. That's good enough. I'll check the there you go. There's the tightest point. Nice. Yeah, I'll check the torque setting on that. Probably about 100, 110, like the old Bandit. There you go, that's one wheel back on. And as I say, make sure your tyre's free of all your grease and shit, because it's going to be slippery enough for a little while. Right, just stick it on the, I'll just stick it on the floor and give it a bounce, then double check the chain's alright. Don't want it too tight when there's weight on there. So it's probably a bit loose actually. Anyway, that's alright. About 20 mil, 25 mil. That's good enough. Right, torque setting on the rear axle nut is, there's my torque wrenches, 100 newton meters. I don't know what that is in butterscotch. So put my goggles back on and wind up my, where are we, newton meters, there we go. So 100 newton meters. I'm going to sock it back on. Oh, hopefully this will be a lot easier when I get the ABBA lift and everything's up in the air. And then just double check. There you go. 100 newton meters. Job done. And slack. Let's do about 20 mil. All back and done. Now I'll just check the tyre for greasy fingerprints and check the back disc. Put a bit of grease on that and then go and play. Hope this helps someone. Ride safe.